Everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance, the performance shop, LoneStarMopars.com. We just finally took a look at this. Got it in on Black Friday with one of their super discounted items. Very, very impressed by the strength and the lightweight of those wrenches. Our Stahlwille lineup, we basically got their quarter drive spinner, we got their quarter ratchet, which again was an unexpected deal. That was a tool of the day purchase. I intended to go with Stahlwille on the 1/2-inch Vera on the quarter. Didn't work out that way because when you can get that thing for 59 bucks instead of 100 plus, that's kind of a tough thing to pass up. Got their clamp for fuel lines. Up top I've got a scribe that I've been using. I intended to put these pliers in on the previous video, but I didn't because we'd already spent about 30 minutes covering that thing in all of its glory. These, I believe, retail roughly around 40 bucks. 38.88 was the current price. The catch is I got them on Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, so they were quite a bit cheaper. This is from Stahlwille. The part number would be 652936160, and these would be their Snipe Nose Pliers with a cutter, and I believe they're 160 millimeter, and then they are polished with the multi-component grip, as you can kind of see here. It's killed me not having these open because I could have used them multiple times. The reason that I didn't open them up to use them is I hadn't gotten to make a video, and of course I had things that would actually work in their place. So now I can open them up and have them ready to go at my disposal, and that is a good feeling. I gotta say, the price point on these, when you compare it to other brands, kind of like Knipex, not really too far out of line. You know, I do realize these are pretty small. Ooh, they're very nice. It's pretty small, but you gotta think, like, it's not a terrible price point in my opinion. So maximum opening right there. Not sure why you would ever need to do that with these, but if the situation did arise, that's what you're looking at. Now obviously what stands out to me is the color scheme, green and black. Green, not often utilized by tool companies. Stahlwille obviously making use of it. Actually looks pretty good. Now your horror story would be dropping these in the grass in the summertime when it's actually green and not yellow, but that's another story for another day. The way I envision using these is, of course, automotive. That's what most of what I bring in is going to be. And one of the favorite and most used pairs of pliers I have is Channellock 318s. And they've just come in so freaking handy. I've kind of got these out of curiosity, A, for the brand, and B, for the quality, seeing how they compare to Channellock, Knipex, so on and so forth. But right here, you've got your pin. Not a lot of excessive oil or anything at all. In fact, you can't even see it on my thumb, I don't think. We've got the rounded area that you're going to use for grabbing, say, nuts and bolts, anything like that. And then we've got the cutters there. Very, very good closure on the jaws. If we spin it around, you can kind of see more of the cut style going on. And then the jaws themselves, very simple. I thought these would be a crosshatch pattern, and they are not. They're simply just, you know, serrations, if you will. It's going to be really hard for that thing to pick up, but rest assured, it's basically, I think you can kind of see it best right there. They're pretty aggressive, though, running my finger across that, so that is good news. That kind of offsets them not being crosshatched, which I personally prefer. I've just found over the years it kind of tends to grab and hold better. One of the big things I do with these, anytime I mess with linkage on the carburetors, it seems like if I can save the pin, the cotter pins, you know, it's like a washer drops down, or one of those like weird little spring washers. And a lot of times, you know, if they're brass, you can't get them with a magnet. And if you're running a factory intake, it might be a problem, you know, but typically I'm dealing with aluminum. I found, though, many magnets that go down, you actually can't retrieve what you're trying to. And here recently, I don't know if I had a bad batch or what, but, you know, when I pull out the pins, I'm finding that they shear off on the backside, and then you have like this tiny little runner. And typically when it's the entire pin, you know, you can come down, you can sort of fish it pretty good. But when it's just like the long end that goes down there, it's super, super annoying, super difficult, just waste time. So where the magnets fail, I'm hoping that these prevail. There's really not a lot to say about them until we've used them. But right there, if that would ever focus. You can see Stahlwille, made in Germany, and then we have 65293160. So what I want to do for you is do a direct comparison, so you might be able to relate these to something you have or something that you have that is similar. And for that, we'll start with these NWS ones, which I have used once, and I've not had any issues with them. But the reason I bought these, and it's going to sound really stupid, but the reason I got them is just because they were a longer reach. And again, I'm somebody who's come to appreciate this style of plier. It works well for electrical stuff too, I have to say, but it is not crosshatch either. It's just, you know, the serrations, they are closer together than the Stahlwille, but not near as, like I could run my hand across that all day and you wouldn't really feel anything. Those are super aggressive compared to the finish we have here. Now these do have cutters built in as well. Overall, very similar design. This one, I've got to say, kind of fits my hand better, even though it's a smaller end. I think just because it's a wider opening. It's also a little bit easier to articulate, I have to say. These aren't too bad. Most NWS pairs, you kind of have to break them in a little bit more. But these are pretty solid right out of the package, I must say. Business end of these, there you kind of get a feel for it, right? So the NWS are significantly longer, and I'm hoping that that comes in handy for me. But with these, I'm just kind of surprised that there's that big of a difference in the way that feels. Nonetheless, what I want to showcase to you, this was something I picked up. I figured it would come in handy. These are way heavier than either one of those, by the way. But what I love about this Channellock pair, they've just been so good to me. I've had zero issues with them. I'm absolutely loving everything about them now. They have the crosshatch, which I don't know if that's why I kind of assumed, you know, these ones I brought in would. That red crud is plastic. I've put these through pretty much any demanding task, whether how weird it may be, how strange it is, and they just take a beating and keep on ticking, man. So they're filthy, my apologies, but again, these are used all the time and I love them so much. That's kind of why I brought these in. So obviously they are significantly larger than either of these pairs, but the limitation with that, aside from it kind of being more comfortable, maybe a little bit more confidence inspiring, is the fact that you are limited to the spaces you can go. That's really why I picked these up. If I was picking up just a pair of standard needle nose pliers from Stahlwille, it would have been something like that. The problem is these are perfect. I love them. And so what I wanted to do is get something scaled down a bit, and these are, as you can see, significantly smaller, and that, of course, I'm hoping gives me the opportunity where these can't function, I can reach for this pair. The biggest thing I can say about these is I love the comfort grip on them. That's a small detail for some people could care less. If you use them all the time, I think it's something that you come to appreciate. You sort of got like the green plastic, which there's nothing rough on them. It's very smooth, feels very solid, not cheap. And then of course right here, you've sort of got like your black. I should point out here, I just now noticed it. Got the Stahlwille logo there, and on this side too. Very cool, nicely done. I thought they just, when I felt it, I thought it was just like a textured area they put to kind of grip your, you know, bottom finger or rest on the palm or something. Not the case. But I do like that that extended up. I mean, I've got pretty big hands. These fit really nicely. The contact patches with the soft textured areas seem to be oriented really, really nicely. So overall, there's nothing bad I can say about those yet, but we've got to put them through the paces, put them to use, and as I mentioned, these I brought in just, I think they were super cheap, and I was interested because of the longer reach. I felt like I could get kind of a smaller profile coupled with a slightly longer reach. This pair, though, is going to be for everywhere these two don't fit, and I feel like now I've got all this taken care of, but again, I absolutely love these, the 318s. If you hate the comfort grip, if you hate the color, you know, just get them in the standard, you know, petty blue, Channellock blue color scheme, PVC grips. But I don't really have any complaints on that, you know, for the price point. Now, I suppose we could come in and see how they cut. You know, why not, right? So, first thing first, let's grab something. And this will be a stainless, 3/8 by, what is that, 2, I think? So let's just put that in place. I'm not squeezing really hard. Now I'm squeezing really hard. Okay, that passes the initial test. Now what I'm interested in the most is out here, because that's primarily, I'll rarely use them in that manner that I just showed you, where I will use these as grabbing. So I'm gonna have this down and I'm gonna see if I can get it. It does, and that was at the tip of the jaws. Let me just kind of simulate something. It grips pretty good. I mean, I think I'm a person that's accustomed to the crosshatch. I just feel it grabs better. But across the top of the bolt, I mean, I've got, I'd say, light pressure, and I think they're going to do fine for what, truth be told, you're never going to really put them, you know, in a situation where they have to pick up a stainless bolt. That is another scenario where the magnets don't come in handy. The better the stainless, the harder of a time you're going to have with a magnet. But we do have the ability to cut with these, which is a very nice feature. So I've just got some 16 gauge speaker wire here, and we will come in, try to get this to where you can see it real good. Let's just shear it. Let's just start with the, I hate making a mess. No, let's do it this way. We'll do it the other way. So I think you can see that pretty well. I never know what side. I think right there is how we'll do this. So let's see what it does. That's a very good cut. You can tell it kind of crimped, closed off the insulation, and then sheared through the cable. And the other telltale sign is that it held that in place. What I want to try now, and this is going to make a mess, so I'm going to keep these closed, I'm going to come right in here, and we're going to take just the portion that is stripped, right? All I've got in there is the copper wire. We're going to squeeze, shear that off by hand, and that means in here, if you can see it, which I don't know that the lighting will allow it since that's a black cavity, all that in there is wire. So let me go ahead and open that up. And there it is. It actually came out intact. I'll get my hand up there for you. So the cutters also passed my initial test. Nothing crazy, nothing super hardcore, but you know, it is worth noting. Now, something I'm going to have to do left-handed here, I want to do a color comparison, just so you know, if you're into that sort of thing. This thing, I can't tell you how handy it has been. People kind of knock these spinner drives, you know, they're like, I'll just use ratchet. I love this thing, and the color scheme right there matches up perfectly. So if you were coming in, if you need needle nose pliers, I would recommend, depending on what you do, I would recommend you get something kind of the size of these 3/18s. Of course, you can do that in Stahlwille. Just size it appropriately. This one, again, I kind of got scaled down. Truth be told, anything smaller than this, it sounds really stupid, but I can't recall the brand. I used to know this. But in a tackle box, and yes, I mean fishing tackle box, I've got a pair of needle nose pliers, and they're actually really, really good. I think they were just intended for, I think they were sold as a multi-use. It was to pull hooks and some other purpose, but they have a really, really aggressive crosshatch. And I've used them, you know, a couple of times over the years, particularly before I had these, but I try to keep them in the tackle box, you know, because that's where I want it to be for when I grab the tackle box, whenever I rarely get to go fishing. But these right here, they're kind of the small size, but I think they're going to fill a nice void for me. That way I can kind of keep those in the tackle box. And truth be told, you kind of forget about them sometimes. But if you're coming in and you're really impressed by what you saw here with these Stahlwilles, I'd recommend you get a bigger size, unless you know that this is going to work for you. And you know, just kind of depends what you're doing, what you plan to do with the pliers. But I think across the board here, we've kind of got everything covered. And the cool thing is now I can kind of compare and contrast. I'll try to use them, you know, intermittently. This one obviously is going to have a lot of advantages in tight quarters, small, restricted areas, if you will. Like I said, I've only gotten to use these once, but they did what I wanted them to, so that's good. And then these I've used for everything, and I love them. So With that said, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you've got any questions, if you have used these, if you have multiple Stahlwille pliers. I realize, they refer to them as Snipe Nose, which is kind of cool. That sounds a little bit more intimidating than needle nose. But for me personally, I've just always known of this design as needle nose, so that's what I continue to go with. But if you have used these, how have they performed for you long term? How have they held up? Have you found any shortcomings? Do you prefer another brand? If so, for what reasons? Again, what I value most here is first-hand feedback from people that have had experience with these. So, similarly, if you swear by Channellock or NWS or Knipex or something and prefer their needle nose, leave a comment, let people know. Again, a lot of it will come down to price point for people, but these were just super cheap. These are a fantastic value. While these are expensive, they are very well done. I should mention the finish on these is really nice too, in terms of the business in there. No rough edges. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know at what point people switch from, just serrated, ends to crosshatch, but my personal experience, and this is at home and at work, I've always found crosshatch to kind of be better, but, to each their own. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but with that said, I'll quit rambling. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. You can also, of course, follow along on Instagram. And with that said, I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.